Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Ask Me Anything with the Baltimore WordPress Meetup. Tonight's Ask Me Anything is for November 10th, 2022. We are the Baltimore WordPress Meetup, and we meet exclusively on Zoom, so you can join us from anywhere. This meetup is informational. The use of information, products, and services that we show is at your own risk. Just because we show a website, plugin, theme, etc., is not an official WordPress endorsement of it. Remember, the majority of us are attending from home, so as always, keep it family friendly. We are going to do our best to follow the WordPress community guidelines and standards. That means if you break these rules, I'll boot you from the meeting. No spamming or spammer-like behavior. We have people of all backgrounds and all different skill levels, so no judgment for people who are at different levels than where you are at. Generally speaking, don't be a jerk. I am Jen. I am a WordPress developer who's been building and managing WordPress sites for clients for over a decade. Over the years, I've built, remodeled, cleaned up, fixed, added functionality to, and done security work for hundreds of WordPress websites. And I also organize the Baltimore WordPress Meetup. You can find more information about me at anfira.com/help. And I've included that in the chat. Some quick admin before we get started with the questions. We are going to use the chat to queue people up. So find your Zoom chat, open your Zoom chat. Hopefully, after over 2 years of a pandemic, we have all learned how to use Zoom's chat. Make sure to leave your video off, as many people have less than ideal internet connections. No one knows everything, but we'll do our best. The questions. When I call your name, please type here in the chat so that I know you are actually here. We have the following people who pre-submitted questions. So if you are one of these people, please type here in the chat. Billy, Lori, Stephen, Chris, Jones, Anne, Greg, and Harry. All right, we have Anne and Greg here. So we are going to do Anne's question first. Anne is asking, can you recommend a plugin with RSS capability because you wish to post weekly podcasts from your website? That's part one. Part two is your current theme is not doing well with the block editor, it sounds like, and it's also having some compatibility issues with some other plugins. So can we suggest a new theme? So we'll address those in the order you asked them. So the first one is an RSS plugin. There are a lot of different RSS plugins out there. Let me just pull up one that one of my clients uses. It'll just take me a second to find it. And then I will include it in the window that I am sharing. All right, so one that is popularly used is called Seriously Simple Podcasting. It is available here on WordPress.org. As you can see, it has a lot of installations. It is regularly being updated. It supports the current version of WordPress, and it's got a lot of very good ratings here. So this is most likely the plugin that I would start with. Again, it's called Seriously Simple Podcasting. And I'll just drop that name into the Zoom chat. then the second part of your question is that your current theme is just not keeping up, is what it sounds like. So the theme that I use and recommend most often is this theme called Ocean WP. And it is, it has a paid version, and it also has a free version that's available on WordPress.org. So if I go to WordPress.org, themes, Ocean WP, you'll see that it has 700,000 active installations. It was literally just updated 2 days ago. It's regularly being supported. It has excellent reviews. This is a very nice, lightweight theme. It receives a lot of regular updates. The company that supports it has been around for years and is very active in the WordPress environment. It's also tagged for accessibility, which is always great. And I've actually seen that the developers do respond regularly to accessibility requests and enhancements, and it supports tons of the common plugins and whatnot. So I would recommend taking a look at this Ocean WP. It is a very much all-purpose theme. It works with pretty much all of the major editors, and yeah, that's where I would go.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Yeah, and actually that looks great. Do you also use a page builder with this? Because I know you've talked about Elementor.
Yes.
Okay.
This one works great with Elementor.
Okay. But do you need both?
You do not.
Okay.
You can just use this Ocean WP theme as is. You can use it with the Gutenberg builder. You can use it with lots of other builders. You'll see here that they highlight a number of the builders that they work with.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
they list off Elementor, Beaver Builder, Brizy, Visual Composer, Divi, Site Origin. So they work with a lot of different builders. And see, they list Best Friend of Elementor and WooCommerce.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep. All right, and that answers both part 1 and part 2. So next we have Greg. So here we are. Greg's question is, any thoughts or experience with using WordPress as a headless CMS, using the various JavaScript frameworks for the front end? Similar question on using WordPress with Docker and Kubernetes. I do not have experience using WordPress as a headless CMS. Probably the group I would head towards is there's a Facebook group called Advanced WordPress. And this is probably a place where you would get some pretty good answers and some people who have experience using WordPress as a headless CMS. I don't have experience using WordPress with a Docker, but I know it is highly recommended by a number of people who really do dig into the code. So I would definitely endorse Docker, even though I haven't personally used it. A lot of people that I know and would trust their opinions have. So hopefully that helps, Greg. And as Eagle wants to point out, Dev Kinsta uses Docker. Dev Kinsta is a thing that you can download. It's an application, and you can download it directly to your computer to basically turn your computer into a web server so that you can develop locally. Another big name in that environment is Local by Flywheel. Those are both things that you can download onto your computer and basically turn your computer into a server and test and play with WordPress. All right, we are done with the pre-submitted questions. and the people who have acknowledged that they are actually here. So does anyone wish to add questions to the chat? The name of the Facebook group is Advanced WordPress. And I can actually grab the link. Anyway, it's a private group. You just have to request to join it. And it's had some good people in it, some not so great people in it, but overall I have had experience getting some good answers to some rather tricky questions. So now that we have done the initial questions that people had pre-submitted, did anyone else wish to? Gary, how active is the use of the full site editor and how many themes are currently enabled to use full site editing? I do not have an answer to that question. I know that in the groups that I'm in, most people are agreeing that full site editing is not where it needs to be for production use. I don't have a total number of themes that are available on the full site editor, but I have definitely heard that people are starting to play around with it, but in terms of actually using it for paid client work, basically no one is.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Yep. And Anne asked a follow-up on full site editing, asking, is that what comes with WordPress now? So WordPress is a core system. Full site editing is a feature of a theme. It's basically a type of theme. So there are themes that are built for full site editing, and there are themes that are not. The vast majority of themes are not. So full site editing is basically a brand new type of theme. It operates completely differently than what we're used to. All right. Are there any other people who would like to add a question to the chat? If it's a longer question, you can also just go ahead and unmute yourself. Paul is asking a question. Have I been using the flexbox containers in Elementor instead of the previous setup with sections and intersections? Yes, I have absolutely been using flexbox and Elementor for several months now. I have, in fact, been using it in production websites. Let's see. Sunline Office. So this is, I'm just going to log out of this so we can see it on the front end. So this is all Flexbox. Flexbox. And personally, I like Flexbox and its containers significantly better. Mostly because I can put container inside container inside container inside container, and there's not really a limit to how far I can go into the containers and doing the alignments. I also did it for this Safe Pass for New Jersey, and it's got quite a few containers in containers. The downloads and resources page has a bit more layouts, I think, going on. So I've got a number of side-by-side layouts. some grid layouts, a few different layouts with it, and adjusting container sizes. Have I run into any problems with the flexbox containers in Elementor? Yes, you cannot put a link inside of a linked container. And what I say by a link, I mean like a button element. You really can't put a link inside a link. It gets all sorts of wonky with that. Basically, if you have a linked column, you just need to not have links inside of that. And you also need to make sure that you don't use the button element inside of that. If you need a button inside of it, well, just do an HTML anchor tag inside of it with the regular text editor or an HTML editor. That's the only real glitch that I've had. And of course, like always, you have to check your responsive, but you have to do that anyway. There was also one other submitted question that I just wanted to quick touch on. So I'm just going to pop over to that one. Basically, the question was just regarding what happens when your SSL has issues. And I just want to touch on this because there's a wonderful website called Why No Padlock. And you basically just pop your URL in here, click the thing, click on test, and it is a great way to quickly test what the heck is wrong with your SSL certificate. Do I have recommendations for analytics plugins since Google is changing? Okay, this is a multi-part question. Number one, Google Analytics is very problematic in the European Union as it doesn't comply with GDPR. So there's that issue. The second one is if people are using something like what I'm using, which is the Brave browser. Brave is basically Chrome, but with privacy and without ads and just generally better. But if someone is using something like the Brave browser, I can't be tracked on Google Analytics. It doesn't record any of my sessions. I won't show up as a visitor on any websites, which as a web developer, this is great because when I'm on my client sites for the 573rd time that week, I don't get tracked in their analytics. But it also means when I visit every other website, I'm not tracked in their analytics. And more people are using privacy extensions and they are using privacy-focused browsers like Brave, so they won't show up on any Google Analytics tracking. There are a few different companies out there which are doing kind of privacy-focused. One is Fathom. So another is Plausible. I'm currently testing Plausible, which is why I'm logged in. But they have plausible.io. Another one is Matamo. I can't even spell it. It's hard to spell. I attempted to use this one, but it was just a total pain. And I've seen several other developers say that it is very trying to get it working correctly. So I wouldn't actually recommend that one. Plausible was quite easy to get started with. They had a WordPress plugin, just popped it in, was up and running in a couple minutes. Fathom, I've heard, is very easy to get started with. So those are a couple of the alternatives. There's also a few WordPress plugins that will literally just keep the analytics all within your WordPress site. Monster Insights is just Google Analytics. it puts some of the Google Analytics information into your WordPress dashboard, but otherwise it's just Google Analytics. The new Google Analytics 4 is a very challenging experience. I did get a analytics. Let's see if this works. It does. There's this website, Analytics Mania, and they had this very nice, very useful getting started with Google Analytics 4. And as you can see, it is 81 pages long. And that is just the getting started guide. Google Analytics 4 is a trying experience to get a lot of the tracking set up. But this was a really, really well done getting started guide. So it's a free download on their website if you just look in the sidebar. If you are using Google Analytics 4, you will basically be pretty much forced to use Google Tag Manager. Eric points out that there is that there are some Google Tag Manager and some other plugins available for WordPress. But yeah. And as Eric pointed out, Monster Insights does have 1,010,000 ads. All right. Were there any other questions? All right. Panda has a question. How can I have vendors sell by grams without going through the manual process of adding an? I do not understand what you're asking, Panda. Do you have a WooCommerce site that you're trying to do something with? If you'd like to unmute Panda, you can.
Sorry, hey, can you hear me?
Hi. Yes.
Hey, well, okay, so I'm starting a cannabis site for dispensaries and as for marketplace vendors. And I've noticed so for the variables for different price, the selling by weight, how you have to add the attribute and then the check mark to add the attribute for variables, and then the variables, that's when you can add the pricing and all the extra information. So I was wondering if there was a way, instead of going through all of that, like a price tier.
You just want to do a price per weight is basically what you want to do.
Right.
Basically you could set it up as a very simple product, and you can just say that the quantity field is the number of grams you want to purchase.
Is there like a plugin to use, or is this something I would code?
So if people can enter like literally any number of grams,
right?
Or do you have very specific numbers that you want?
Well, first I just want to start out with specific numbers. And so the vendors, all they would have to do is enter in the price.
Okay, so you want the vendor to basically enter in whatever it is, $1 per gram.
Right.
And then you want the vendor to be able to say how many grams you can purchase it in?
So basically, yeah, well, the grams would already be set. So the attributes would already be set. It's just that on the back end, the vendors would just enter in the pricing of what they would
So
want.
you have basically, you've already fixed the You can sell it as 10 grams or 20 grams or 50 grams or 100 grams.
Right.
Those are the only units that you can sell something as.
Correct.
Then basically it would be the most straightforward solution is to do it in terms of whatchamacallit, variable products, where they have to write in how much 10 grams costs, how much 20 grams costs, how much 50 grams costs, how much 100 grams cost.
Right.
There is also a plugin out there which allows you to say what quantities you can purchase it in.
Mm-hmm.
So there are like some minimum maximum quantity plugins where basically the vendor would be able to say it's $1 a gram or it's $2 a gram. And then the minimum purchase would be 10 grams, and then it would increment in terms of 10 grams, and then the maximum would be 10 grams, or would be 100 grams. And there's kind of a min-max plugin, which you could use kind of like that. And then there's also some plugins that allow you to select specific intervals of like 1, 5, 10, 20 that allow you to have kind of non-contiguous intervals.
Right.
Which again, it would be using it. You can also just go to woocommerce.com and you can log into your account. And on the back end, there is a support help section, and you can send a pre-purchase question. And you can literally just send a question to WooCommerce. Hi, do you have any plugins that solve this, and be very clear in writing out what you want to accomplish. And then you can also send that kind of plugin request to other companies like Yith Themes. And there's some other large plugin companies out there that you could send your request to and see if they might have something that would suit your use case.
Mm-hmm.
And just contact them with a pre-purchase question.
Okay, thank you.
So that's where I would start kind of exploring. Yes, I understand you probably want to make it as simple as possible for your vendors because they are not tech savvy. Okay. Were there any additional questions?
Sorry, I just have one more question.
Yes.
What would be your recommendation on the best plugin for SEO?
You're going to get mixed answers. As a general, I don't know what your goals are, SEO Press.
Okay. I guess basically just being the top of the page, front page, or first page, I should say.
So their basic plugin is free.
Mm-hmm.
If you go pro, it's still not that expensive. Again, if you just want a generic, here's a recommendation, throw it out. I would say probably SEO Press. Okay, were there any additional questions? All right, then I will just follow up with, if you're looking for WordPress help outside of meetup times, we do have a page and it does have some information on where you can get assistance. And at the moment, we don't have an additional meetup scheduled yet, but if you are in the meetup group or you are subscribed to the newsletter, then you will get notifications for when our next meetup is for.